Alright, hello everybody. Let's continue our game reviews of my over-the-board games. Lately I've been only playing the Finnish League, which is a game a month at most, skipping some months. I mean, there's been a month where we had actually 2 games. The next game is gonna be in January, so it's gonna be a little while. I don't know if I'm gonna play in a tournament in between, but we'll see. Anyways, my opponent is around 2050 FIDE. I rated. I'm white again. So this season I've had 3 whites and 1 black. So again, not a bad color distribution. Alright, so I played d4. My opponent plays knight f6. I go c4. And they go g6. I played him a few years ago. And then it went into the Fajarovich. But he didn't want to repeat that. Probably kind of risky to repeat a gambit against the same opponent. The surprise value of gambits is often the big factor to make them efficient, and repeating dodgy line like a Fajarovich is very risky. So g6, I could go to many places still. I go knight c3, and of course if they go here, maybe king's Indian, but instead d5, we go into the Grünfeld, and of course the main line is to chop e4, and we get the typical pressure against the center here. I went with the differently with the sideline bishop f4. Idea is just to get the bishop outside the pawn chain. If we get there, we defend the pawn, and then we're pretty solid with the easy position to play. Also, it's a bit different than the normal Grünfelds. My opponent played bishop g7. I played knight f3, just developing up. And here he goes c6, which turns this into the Schlechter Slav. Could of course castle. I think he could go c5 straight up, but probably more common is to go castles and then c5, and you still get your Grünfeld pressure. It gets wild. This is something different. I've played this on black side a few times. I just play e3. I remember, well, not here, but I guess here I played bishop e2. I remember that h3 is the normal idea against the Schlechter, where we play a little bit against this guy here, and it's a bit hard to find a square, and here it's not super stable. I mean, it is, but then you never can play e6, and if you can't play e6, then your d-pawn is a little vulnerable, and if you play e6, then the bishop starts to get a little flustered there. Guess it could stand there, but it's a little unstable there. Instead, I played bishop e2, fine too. And then my opponent, I think, should just play something more quiet. He went for the bishop here, which I did not. Oh yeah, h3 of course makes also the hidey hole for the bishop, so guess he goes to punishment mode instantly. Of course I could drop my bishop back here and be completely fine, but I decided that nah. I go provoke f6, and I try to trade the bishops than the knight for a bishop. Could have straight up taken here too, and like have the knight look a bit silly on the side here. But if I can induce f6, which I'm not sure is the good idea eventually anyways, because it does leave this knight in a bit of a pickle here, because g4 comes up, oh, at some point it could become a problem and the knight gets trapped. Here the bishop is still covering g4. So my idea is that I go provoke this and then chop here, get rid of my bishop in a way that we leave the knight here. So of course if I retreat he takes, and then it's pretty normal looking position. No worries. Well, the downside of course that now this got quite weak here. So I'll chop. Was considering going instantly here too, but decided that it's better to open things up here. Alright, my opponent played f5. He decided that he cannot take here, which he could, but he's gonna lose a pawn, I think, anyways. I saw this line. I think in the first I was looking at this, looked promising, but then he maybe plays bishop here or e6, and I don't know. Oh, well, actually he can't play e6. That's the downside, of course. Then you block the bishop and the knight gets trapped here. So I'm thinking that maybe he goes there, and then I wasn't sure. I was debating this move to open the bishop up here, or even maybe, I'm not sure this is a good idea to sack the g-pawn for a central pawn, but could have been a possibility. But then I saw at some point that I can go here, hit the knight, and defend this square. So we are not actually trying to take that one, but play g4 and trap it. And if black plays something to make room for it, like f5, I can take here, and the knight supports the c4 square. So we have the skewer here. So weakening this diagonal is important. So instead of taking back, which I think I can win by force. I haven't checked it with the computer yet. I assume this is correct. Knight d2 is the best move. And then f5 is the best move. Okay, and then instead of computer actually takes here, instead of taking here. Goes for, of course not taking, but goes for complications here. And now black doesn't take back, but oh shoot. He goes for a counterplay with f takes here first. At least opening the rook up here. If I save the bishop, he can take here, of course, with check, or I don't know, maybe that would be best. No. Then chop. Ah, okay. So it could completely collapse in their favor. So computer actually wants to take here and just wreck the pawns. Take the pawn this way. Yeah. Makes sense. Central pawn, of course, is tasty, but maybe it's a safer bet. Anyways, the game went differently. They did not take back, and I could take here, but then I thought at least he gets the open file here, and maybe something little. So I went instead here, threatening a discovery here, and if they take, then we'll maybe get the queens off, and knight looks nice. This guy is, well, I guess he can now escape, but and there's no e5. f4 is not gonna probably break things open either too well, so if I can keep the bishop pair at bay here, it should be doing fine. So they did not take, they dodged out here, but then I can take here. And the b-pawn is now pinned. They went here, defending the rook, now threatening to take here. I don't know, maybe with the b-pawn still to open the rook up. And here I could probably take here and be up a few pawns. But this I decided, nah. I'll keep the b-file closed. Because I saw that I can get this guy here with this. Then the discovery here. Well, they probably have to take it if they save the knight, because otherwise he ends up in the smothered mate. Not good. So he probably has to take here if he saves the knight, and then I mean white queen will escape here, and it's fine. So they decided to go queen d6. Tricky. So now if I go greedily into the exchange, oops, queen's trapped. Queen defended the e6. Not good. So instead I just chopped here. They could take here, but they decided to do a little differently. Comes to, oh yeah, they now they cannot, of course, take. I did see this one because now this no longer traps my queen because we have an escape route through the h5. Bang, and then white's winning. So he went here, counterattack here, and here I went. I could have just taken here. Fork. They have to take it and then retreat somewhere. And if e5, well, this is what I was thinking, that maybe the bishops open up. The king is really open too, though. If he went g5, I thought h3, and then we could like stop this push here with the discoveries here, and this would be fine. And I don't really see but f4. I mean, maybe at some point it could weaken this, and like they could have some pressure there, but it seemed fine. But I had a different idea. I decided that I'll just double the pawns instead of stealing another one. And then I saw this move here, driving the queen away from good squares here. Like if he goes there, we just chop. And the knight was coming here, like pressuring here and kind of stopping these, and being overall maybe better suited here than here. My opponent played queen d6. I was hoping that they would go for complications here, and then I would have the funny smothered mate again. Knight was covering the g8, so he has to take with the rook. Oh, unlucky, he did not do that. I go here. Now it's very hard to defend this square, because if you go back, then I can just chop here and maybe trade down, and their king is gonna be quite open without the bishop there. And this one we can just chop. We have a lot of players around here. But okay, so they decided that they cannot do anything about this and went bishop d7. And I assume I should have maybe gone for this. I saw some complications and I decided, or thought myself out of it, like these are the lines I was calculating during the game. Like here, and the problem is that you're on the rook, so I can't move the king to like try to get artificially castled. And if I try to do something like this, then chop here. Apparently this of course would have been fine, because of course I didn't see an easy move like this. But maybe even here there could be some disturbance. How do you keep this covered? I mean, of course I can just take and queen takes, and it's not even a problem, but I didn't calculate this deeply. Just looked a little messy here. And also, yeah, you can just, instead of g3, you can also come here with the queen to defend the check here, and maybe you go for the trade soon. Get your king to somewhere safety, I don't know how, but somewhere, and still can block this diagonal here if he goes there. And this guy is out of play. Anyhow, probably better. I decided to castle. King safety, all fine. I did see this move, that they have the defensive move here. Of course, it's a little awkward move to make, disconnecting your rooks and all, but I was thinking that maybe soon he'll start to push my knights backwards, and then maybe the bishop could come here and kick my queen to a little less good square. Here I've spent I spent irresponsible amounts of time again in this game. I was calculating this move and that move and all kind of nonsense. I think they do work pretty well too. Like there's no pins here because we just chop it. And 8-6 doesn't work because we can take here and we are probably fine here. Up few pawns. Probably gonna survive. I mean, I don't know. Could confuse the issues with f4. But in the end, I did kind of turn back to my old ways and pawn up what we do. Go for an endgame. I don't like this decision too much, and then opponent plays there and gets the rook semi-active like a. My queen side is a bit naked here. Well, instead I have to take or just admit mistakes and go back. So they took with the rook, of course, to keep it active here. And now I was debating that I wanted to stop e5. Because I thought like if the bishop activates, then he has pressure here and maybe the bishop pair is gonna be enough. I'm up only a pawn. Of course they added silly double pawn here, so it's not sure. Like am I up a pawn or like a 2 pawns? Or a 1.5, whatever these guys are worth. But I decided that I can. Took me a little convincing me that I can go here, fighting for e5, and that I don't have to instantly go here. I can just go now here, and if they try to take the c file and get in, I can just chop and go here, and I'd be fine here, which is probably true. I think I am almost probably winning fine here. What does Mr. Machine say? 0.2. So definitely winning advantage. Alright, they did not go for the c file. Instead they played bishop here. Kind of lining up here. Oh, also the knight had all kind of nasty forks, so the other bishop is kind of stuck here covering f7. I think this also had the idea that what they played in the game was the king comes here to defend f7. Alright, now I jump to the occasion to take the c file. White is rook. I wanted to avoid some pins here. Even though with the fork the pins were not coming yet. But maybe like if I go this way, maybe he chops and comes here, and even though it's completely fine too. But I don't know, I just decided that I use this rook. Even though there is some, of course, big argument that you could use the other one if somehow the d pawn gets chopped off. I was not really sure how that would happen, but like maybe he disturbs this and gets the e5 in, and then this could be an annoyance there. Alright, they come here, defend the fork square, free the bishop. Well, I'll go backwards with my knight now that it did not do much there. My idea is to cover this and like get the when the knight bishop comes there, which it did, I'll jump there. And now I have a nice like if they take here, I'll take with the knight back and I'm still here and still covering this. And this guy is a little bit out of the play. Of course he can at any point chop, but then I have a nice knight in the center and I'm doing fine. Computer pointed out that I should have used the other knight. Let this idiot go. But this knight is probably better suited on d3. Just covers the b pawn, which is kind of relevant in the game. And then I'll just chop, play b3, and then double here. And I think I win this back. And well, they still have the problems like all the black pawns are, even though I did give up my extra pawn back, but I think it's very hard to, requires calculations too. I try to keep the control and keep my pawns this way, but the knight would have been better on d3. Well, the plus for black is that this bishop is kind of a pain now on the light squares here. It can't be really disturbed from these squares, and it's putting pressure here, and I guess it also has some kind of like if I move this, then you can always chop here and chop here, even though it would probably be fine too. All right, now that they moved the bishop, I jumped in here. I was calculating earlier on at this point the knight rook jumps here too. I was not sure, like I didn't really see how black would go trapping the rook here. Like it's not easy to get the bishop to hit it, or any kind of king runs in too slow. Can always take and free the rook this way. But then I decided against this, but after the bishop came here, I jumped to the occasion and to 7th rank. My opponent doubled the rooks here. And here he comes with a nice plan. This move I ended up regretting, because instantly I was like, wait, this does nothing. It's threatening the pawn anyways. I didn't like that the rook's active here and the bishop puts pressure on these guys here, and that's my weak point here. I tried to set things up, but I was getting into time trouble at these points, I think. Or not too much left. I should have just played b4 here. And if this goes here, we can play a4, or if it goes for this, I can set up with a3, and I don't know, seems it's more sturdy than what happened in the game. Because I played b3, and then I played b4. Because I realized the pawn here does nothing. Point is that the bishop is overloaded to attack and the defense, so if it takes there, I'll just chop and be fine. But my opponent played a nice move, which I missed completely. Rook a3, stopping this pawn from moving forward, which I would love to have played a4 or a3. Probably a4 if allowed. And now he has a very annoying plan here. Just winning this pawn. Or alternatively this pawn, because this is now isolated here, because he blocked this. And then I played probably the worst move of the game, g3. I'm like, I want to hang on to this so this knight can move. But the downside, of course, is that now this is coming. And while that is coming, the back rank gets horrible. And the bishop is bearing down here. Really horrible. Like they're at some point threatening to chop, and the bishop looks there, and the rooks break through here, it's mating nets instantly. Of course, it's a few moves back, but comes surprisingly fast. Rook d6. Here I think I did this with less than a minute on my clock, and we are move 30. But to be honest, I didn't have any idea what to do against this. I could have just played them. There was I was thinking b5s, but I don't really see what happens here, for instance. But maybe like this. It's not easy to attack this, but when we're on the bishop too. But I guess he could just then take here, because I'm no longer on the b7. And he defended the b7 too, yeah. There goes the extra pawn. It wouldn't have helped to either. Yeah, the computer pointed out that knight c4 was the best move here. Because, well, it's a fork, so maybe they have to take there, and then this is no longer a problem, and we can go for counterattacks here, I assume. And now the back rank's no longer that critical without the bishop here, yeah. Yeah, I definitely could not think objectively anymore because I feel like the game is slipping away. I'm running out of time. This is halfway panic move. It's coming here to do stuff, but it's too late. He's going there. Well, I go bother the bishop at least. Maybe he plays e6 and then I go here and have some fun. Who knows? Well, they take here. I probably have to take it. And now they have to take, of course, with the rook because the bishop is hanging. Oh, sorry, with the bishop because of course, you would try to take with the rook and keep the bishop here, but I get few moves here, knight here, and maybe I can play f3 at some point. They went here, and then I don't know. I should have done something else than what I did. This is not really a threat I was worried about. Well, I was kind of worried about it, but I can just play f3 and be fine here. I could also just go here and play f3 here. If he goes there, and if he tries to do it the other way around, I can counterpin the bishop here. I played f3, make some room for my king and kind of cut this square away from the bishop in some possible future. And now black could definitely go for a better side in the endgame. I saw this, but after I moved f3 and realized, oh, I undefended the e3. So he could chop, go here. I have to move the knight somewhere. He chops here. Hits this, I probably have to go for this and then, I don't know, probably take here and then my pawn is hanging here. I have weak pawns around here. Computer says this is equal, but it would have been a painful equal, I think. Luckily for me, my opponent didn't really have too much time either. So after f3, they attacked the pawn instead. I guess they also, it might be hard for you to part with the bishop pair. But it's kind of closed with the pawn knights still stuck there in the center. And yeah, taking and going here for the skewer would have turned the tables around. Well, this gives me a free move though. It's not very aggressive. I went for the activate the rook again, so if he takes there, then there's gonna be two pawns hanging. And now at least I'm already, if they go for any nonsense there, I'm already on the pawn here. So they took this one. Well, I took with the knight. And they took here. Of course, if they defend the e pawn, then I can take the b pawn. So their plan was to connect the passed pawns. But this guy is surprisingly, I was very pessimistic. I did not realize how strong this guy actually is. And here they have to take this guy really seriously. They played here, which is already a losing move. I think they should come back here. Just gets closer and hits the rook and kind of like trying to sneak the king closer to the passed pawn. Because here he's defending the h pawn, it seems a bit irrelevant. And I just push the pawn. And it's now very, very hard to stop. You basically have to give up the bishop to stop it. Like maybe somewhere here, d6, bishop here, d7, you just have to give it up. There's no easy way to get the rook under it. Like, well, if you go here, I'm just gonna go, and we're just threatening to check and promote, and then I'm up a full rook, and that ain't good. So he played king f8, but then I'm just gonna defend by pushing a pawn. We're threatening this, and well, he didn't have much time either. He played f4, but trying to free the bishop somehow, I think. Or maybe have me take with this way, and you could maybe get under the rook, but or the pawn, but I'll just check and I don't need to touch this pawn. Here he was, well, obviously there's nothing white can do. Like, this is just gonna come and come. Check, check, check. Oh, first. So here he resigned with few seconds on the clock. Well, what can I say? Beginning of the game was really good. I was really happy how I played that one, but at some point like started to make mistakes. Then maybe the instantly like starting to trade the queens and going for the end game and slightly slipped away, and I was trying to keep control, but I spent way too much time and didn't manage to keep the control anyways. Luckily I won in the end, but I was not really happy with this win. But what can you do? Anyways, I'm somehow I have 4 points out of 4 games. But like the wins are like this, like very lucky in the end. Anyways, thanks for watching and until next time. Ciao.